Okay. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker tonight, who's going to speak to us on the topic, the Galactic New Earth Journey, igniting the sacred flame of your inner Christo-Sophia. And our speaker will be Sophia Mona Lisa. A little bit about Sophia. Sophia is an alchemical creation high priestess and a shamanic priestess of the Magdalene Mysteries School, founded by Nicole Kristen. Sophia Mona Lisa is the founder of both the Golden Ray Center and Aquarian Age Goddess Temple, established to restore the culture of sovereignty and sacred relationship, and the Rose Wheel Mystery School and Aquarian Age Mystery School under the umbrella of the Golden Ray Center. She utilizes astrology as her primary shamanic tool. In 2019, Sophia Mona Lisa made a trip to the Cathar region of southern France with a group of 7 people, 2 of whom are priestess sisters in her same lineage. During this Magdalene journey, one of their first stops was the landscape Venus Temple at Rennes-le-Château. Nearby in Rennes-les-Bains, am I pronouncing that right, Sophia?
No, but it's okay.
Please correct it.
So it's Rennes-le-Château and Rennes-les-Bains.
Rennes-les-Bains, okay. Yeah, I have absolutely no French knowledge, so thank you. Also within the temple, they climbed a mountain to the 5,000 plus year old stone chair known as the seat of Isis. It was in the seat of Isis that Sophia Mona Lisa experienced a profound multi-dimensional attunement through which she received the archetype of divine creation, Sophia-Christ Consciousness, in her heart chakra, and became an embodiment of the resurrected Christ and unveiled Sophia. The installment of the archetype of divine creation radically shifted the trajectory of Sophia Mona Lisa's spiritual work. Upon returning home from the pilgrimage, Sophia Mona Lisa began teaching sacred feminine classes aligned with the Venus synodic cycle, and sacred masculine classes aligned with the Mars synodic cycle through her mystery school. It was later revealed to her that the intention behind the teaching of those classes was to allow the new template for the sacred feminine, Venus, and sacred masculine, Mars, journeys to come forward. This new temple was revealed to Sophia Mona Lisa by Jeshua, Jesus, as the second coming of Christ, as the emergence of Sophia through humanity. In January 2022, Sophia asked Sophia Mona Lisa to guide the Galactic New Earth Project. Since January, she has facilitated the monthly ceremonies for installing the rose gold Christo-Sophia light codes in 8 Venus temples around the globe. And that is Turkey, Egypt, France, Spain, the Canary Islands, Sedona, Kauai, and New Orleans. In October, Sophia Mona Lisa, with the assistance of the other participants in the project, will be linking up the 8 Venus temples to bring the New Earth light grid online and begin the repairing and activation of humanity's 12 DNA strands. Sophia Mona Lisa is a certified breath of love practitioner, a certified Jara practitioner, and solfeggio sound therapy practitioner. She has been an ordained minister through the Universal Life Church since 2003. So thank you so much, Sophia, to coming here today and speaking to us and providing us a presentation. Appreciate it. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nancy. And it's a tremendous pleasure to be here again. I was here in March to speak to the group about the initiation of this New Earth Galactic Project. And I hope Helen doesn't mind me saying it was at that time that Helen learned about the work that I'm doing and has participated in all 8 of the Venus Temple installation of the Christo-Sophia light codes. And she's been a very valuable partner in doing this planetary and galactic work. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen so that I can go over to my slides and start my slide presentation here. Okay, here we go. So what's getting ready to happen in less than a week is that Venus will be disappearing from the morning sky to begin her journey in the underworld, which takes several months to transpire. And so at any time in our life, we can always bring ourselves back into the present moment, back into our heart space, which is the seat of our soul, which is the seat of our inner Christo-Sophia. And we can ask ourselves in that moment, am I looking for obstacles or am I looking for magic? And what's particularly poignant about that is as we go into the underworld, anytime a planet moves into the underworld, what that planet is experiencing, or the energies that that planet represents, and in this case with Venus, she represents the sacred feminine principle. It is a shamanic death and rebirth experience. So what we've been experiencing as humanity since the last Venus temple activation, which was on August 25th, I believe, up until the time that Venus will descend into the underworld, which I think is September 14th. During this time, we've been like this caterpillar here that has been creating this chrysalis around us to prepare us for this shamanic death and rebirth. And by the time Venus descends into the underworld, this is how we will look. We will be fully encased within our own Christo-Sophia chrysalis. And within that chrysalis, through this shamanic death and rebirth, we will experience our own, I would say, dissolving into the primordial goo of all that is. And each of us experience this in our own unique way. And then what will happen is about halfway through this underworld period, we will have an event which is called a resurrection point. And we know that we've reached that event when the sun and Venus come together in the sky. And at that resurrection point, we, as the newly transformed butterfly, come out of this chrysalis. Now, Venus will still be in the underworld, and as this newly formed butterfly that has broken out of our chrysalis, we will still be in a very vulnerable position. The wings are still down. They don't have the strength yet to take flight. That will happen later when Venus rises from the underworld into the evening sky. But on this very powerful, very poignant event of the resurrection point, those of us that have been working together in this Galactic New Earth Project are going to meet once again to link up the Venus temples that we have worked together to install all of the rose gold Christo-Sophia light codes into. And the tool that we'll be using to help us link up these Venus temples is a crystal. Now, this particular image here is a specific image of a Vogel crystal. And I'm going to just stop my share quickly so that I can show you that I myself have a Vogel crystal. It's not necessary to do this work with a Vogel crystal. You can use any crystal that you personally have. However, you're going to see just exactly how powerful the work with a Vogel crystal is. So what we see here is that at one end of the crystal, which Dr. Vogel has called the female end, the universal receiving end, this end has been cut at a 52-degree angle, and this angle aligns with the angle of the Great Pyramid. And then the other end, which is called the male end, or the personal projecting end, has a more acute angle of 60 degrees. So that's what defines this crystal as a Vogel-Cut crystal. Now, there are some very specific attributes about working with crystals and their quantum quartz crystal technology that I'm going to speak to, but it's through the use of our crystals that we're going to bring this new Earth light grid online after we've linked up all of the Venus temples. And of course, that new Earth light grid is going to exist in the quantum field. And we know when we're dealing with quantum physics that anytime that we look at something through a specific perspective, that is in fact what we are going to experience in our manifested reality. And so what this new Earth light grid that we're bringing online through these Venus temples is going to do is it's going to act as a quantum light bridge to assist us as a part of humanity, all of humanity, in navigating the frequencies between this third density of Earth and into that fifth density of Gaia. And the other thing that we're going to be doing on October 22nd is we're going to start the repairing and reactivating of the 12 strands of DNA. And we're going to start here with the third strand of DNA. And again, for each of the activations, when we repair and reactivate another strand of DNA, we will be using this quantum quartz crystal technology. Now, I'll refer you to this blog post that I wrote that you can look to later. There are a lot of links in that blog post that speak directly to the source of this information regarding this quantum crystal technology, which Dr. Michael Sala has provided through interviews with Dan Willis and Elena Danan. And Dan and Elena themselves back in June did a video on Elena's YouTube channel regarding using this quantum quartz crystal technology as well. But what's really important to understand is this repairing piece, because what's happened is humanity, as a result of the interference of the dark forces, has been disconnected, so to speak, from these other strands of DNA. But those strands of DNA that we were once connected to still exist within the quantum field. And so this is what I mean by repairing, is that we are going to be reconnecting our dormant strands of DNA with the strands of DNA that are in the quantum field, or you could even use the word, the divine template that each of us has for our own physical body. And then we're going to be reactivating that. So this is the key launching point for the next phase of this Galactic New Earth journey. So let's talk a little bit here about this crystal. What we see here is that this 52-degree receiver end, which they call the female end, creates an angle, as does the male end, which is the sender end. It creates its own angle. And where these two angles converge, they call that a convergence point. It creates what they refer to as the eye of the crystal, which is a vortex center. It's a singularity point. And what they tell us, Dr. Vogel and Dan Willis tell us about the structure of a crystal is that it has the same structure as water, and both water and quartz in their structure resonate with the frequency of love. Now, what I've discovered is that this vortex point is the access point to that frequency of love. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. But what you can do by programming, so to speak, this crystal with whatever it is through your visualization, your imagination, to create, you can then access the unified source field, the planetary matrix, your own divine template, and you can embed that into the source field to create an outcome that is a desired outcome. And this is why I said that I personally am using a Vogel-Cut crystal in this project, is because the Vogel-Cut crystals are a more surgical tool to operate into the fabric of space-time and universal consciousness. The other thing that's significant to understand about this eye of the crystal, this singularity point, is that we know that the frequency of love is the connecting pulse between all living things in the universe, even through dimensional planes. And so love is the universal bridge, and it can bridge anything. And because it can bridge anything, and because it is of such a high frequency, it's a secure channel for being able to create your desired outcomes. And that secured channel prevents dissonance. Now, this is the structure, the foundational structure of a crystal. And what you'll notice is within this structure, you see the geometry of what we call a tetrahedron. This is a 3D tetrahedron. This is a 2D image of that structure. And in fact, if you look even closer, what you see is that geometrical tetrahedron structure is creating what we call, or what we know to be, a star tetrahedron pattern. And that star tetrahedron pattern is a fractal of this sphere, which is the sphere of the flower of life. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit to present some new information to tie all of this in together. To me, this sphere here, this flower of life, represents the structure of the unified source field, that which some people relate to as God, maybe God, Goddess. Some people relate to as absolute creator. But for me, I relate to this unified source field as the Sophia-Christ Consciousness. So you can see in this yin-yang symbol that the yin portion represents the sacred feminine principle. The yang portion represents the sacred masculine principle. Within the sacred feminine, we've got some of the sacred masculine, and within the sacred masculine, we have some of the sacred feminine. And that's because they are perpetually in what in Greek is called hieros gamos, sacred union. Now we can take this image of the yin-yang symbol that represents the unified source field, and we can depict that in another way. But first, I want to look at the sacred masculine principle and the sacred feminine principle in terms of Christ and Sophia. Most people recognize that the Christ is identified in a holy trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. What many people have forgotten is that the beloved of Christ, the bride of Christ, is Sophia, and she herself has a holy trinity of Mother, Daughter, and Holy Soul. And so we know Christ as divine will, and we know Sophia as divine wisdom. And when the two of them come together in sacred union, here we have that star tetrahedron that we saw back here as the foundational structure of a quartz crystal. Remember, that's the same structure of water. And so this is actually a secondary representation of that unified source field. And to me, the union of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine is that Sophia-Christ consciousness. And the union of Sophia and Christ manifests itself as that frequency of divine love. The divine love that we were told is the bridge to everything in our universe. And so you see here at this convergence point, this access point, this vortex center is where you have access to divine love. Now I'm going to pause my share here for a minute. Just want to make sure, to share something with you about that point. When you listen to Dan Willis and Elena Danaan speak about this access point here of the vortex within the crystal, the way that they speak to this is they ask you to hold an intention to, get into some kind of a meditative space where you're aligned with this frequency of love, and to hold the intention of programming the crystal with love before you program the crystal with whatever it is that you want to create or to manifest. But the information that I received from the Sophia-Christ Consciousness is a little bit different, because what we will see is that this feminine point is the Sophia end, and what this masculine point end is the Christ end. And so we know that whenever Sophia and Christ come into sacred union, the manifestation of their union is divine love. And so when you charge and activate this crystal, you don't have to program the crystal with love. That singularity point is your access to that frequency. And that activated frequency of divine love actually entrains your heart and lines your heart to that frequency of love. And you can feel it when you activate. You can feel that vortex point actually bring you into that resonance with that frequency of divine love. So let me go back to my slides here. So there's a lot of information in the interview that Dr. Michael Sala did with Elena Danaan and Dan Willis about how to use these crystals to be able to manifest, what it is that you're desiring to manifest. After reading through all of the material that Dan Willis has on his website, which is marcelvogel.com, I think, after listening to the interview that he did with Dr. Marcel twice, and listening to the interview that he did with Elena Danaan regarding this quantum technology, for myself, it felt like it was really engaging the mind to such an extent that I felt like people could be getting tripped up on whether or not they were following the proper steps, whether or not they were doing the steps correctly or not. And so for me, I always go back to simplicity. And these are the steps that I came up with to simplify all of the information that Elena Denon and Dan Willis shared. And so the first 3 steps here are to clear, charge, and connect. That's really easy to remember because they all start with a C, clear, charge, and connect. So I'm going to stop my screen here and I'm going to show this to you. To clear your crystal, you just hold it at both ends, and every crystal, whether it's a Vogel crystal or not, has maybe at minimum 4 different sides. So you want to hold the intention in your mind to clear the crystal. You want to hold 2 of the sides that are opposite of each other, and you want to take an in-breath. You want to hold the in-breath while you're thinking clear, and then you do a sharp out-breath. And when you go like that, your consciousness is taking that intention of clearing the crystal and it's programming it into the crystal. And you just go around for each of sets of 2 sides. You take the in-breath, you hold it, you have the intention clear, you let out a sharp exhale, and your consciousness and that intention to clear is clearing the crystal. And you go around through each side until it's clear. Now, what I started doing just for myself is, if you're at all familiar with muscle testing, kinesiology, then I take my crystal and I hold it in front of my heart and I stand up and I ask the crystal, are you cleared? And invariably, I start to move forward, which is a positive signal from my body receiving information from this crystal. Yes, it is clear. The opposite, of course, is if you start to feel yourself move backward, that's a negative response. But it's very easy to clear the crystal. And every time I have gone through that process and I've checked it, it has been cleared. So let me go back to my slides. So the next piece then is, hold on a second here. You want to charge your crystal. So this is how you charge your crystal. You allow the crystal to sit in your palm wherever it feels comfortable. And wherever it feels comfortable, your pointer finger is going to be able to touch the Christ end. And your middle finger is going to actually embrace that eye of the crystal, that singularity point where that love frequency is. And it's going to feel very natural, very comfortable, like that crystal belongs exactly in that place of your palm. And what you do is you just use your fingers to revolve the crystal in your hand in a clockwise manner. And as you do that, you're charging the crystal. And the way that you know that the crystal is becoming charged is because you will start to feel a kind of stickiness show up between the palm of your hand and the surface of the crystal. And that's all it takes, rotating in a clockwise manner between your fingers and the palm of your hand, your crystal. Again, whether it's a regular crystal, like this one here, or a Vogel-Cut crystal. It's the same process. So you will feel that stickiness, and that tells you your crystal is charged. And so now the next piece here is to connect. And how do we connect? We connect through the breath. It's that sharp, we connect through the breath, and we connect through the singularity point. And so what happens is you will start to feel, if you allow your middle finger to pulse on that singularity point, you will start to feel your heart come into alignment, come into resonance with that love frequency. And for me, the way that I experience that love frequency when it's showing up is very much aligned to the scripture that says, my cup runneth over. When I feel that immense, some people call it your heart saying yes, that's when I know that I am aligned with that love frequency, which is the manifestation of the Christ and Sophia. So real quickly, you clear, you charge, you connect. That simple. And now you're ready to program your crystal with whatever it is that you desire to create, whatever it is you desire to manifest. In the June presentation that Elena Denon and Dan Willis did on Elena's YouTube channel, they were specifically doing an intention to create a positive timeline for humanity. And of course, that very much resonates with what we're doing through the Galactic New Earth Project in terms of bringing this new Earth light grid online and repairing and reactivating our DNA codes. All of this being done with the Sophia-Christ Consciousness. So how do you program it? I've already mentioned that. Let me go back to my slides. You visualize. You visualize in as much detail as you possibly can what it is that you're desiring to create, what it is that you're desiring to manifest. And remember, as you visualize, you take in the inhale, and as you hold your breath while you're visualizing it, that consciousness, which is your breath, is being charged with that image, that visualization. And then what do? You bridge. How do you bridge? Again, with the exhale, the sharp exhale. As soon as you do that consciousness with that image goes right into the crystal. So I just want to pause right here and ask if there are any questions about these 5 steps of clearing, charging, connecting, visualizing, and bridging. Anita, did you have a question? We can't hear you. Let me see if I can ask you to unmute.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sure.
Can you please repeat the 3rd step? Was a little bit quick for me. Is the finger on the Christ point when you connect to the heart?
So what happens is when you find the space in your palm where your crystal will naturally fit, kind of like a hand in a glove, it's going to feel very natural. Mm-hmm. Your pointer finger rests on the Christ end, okay, and your middle finger, okay, will automatically lay over the eye of the crystal, that singularity point, which is the love frequency. And the Sophia part is just resting in the palm of your hand.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So now what I've been doing as I've been playing with this is we know that we're fractals of the entire cosmos, of the entire unified source field. So we can use our own body to play with this, to let our mind know, the lower mind, which is going to tell you, oh, this isn't working, or, oh, you're not doing this right, to let it know that, yes, you are doing it right. Yes, it is working. And so once you've gone through even just the first 3 steps, clear, charge, connect. If you point the Christ end of your crystal at your left palm, you are going to feel the energy of that crystal that's being directed at your left palm in your left palm. And if you pulse the singularity point, the vortex point, the frequency of energy that you're going to feel in your hand, you're going to feel that energy become more and more intense as you pulse that singularity point. So you can play with this on your own, with your own hand, to see that it's working before you even start programming your crystal for whatever it is that you want to create or manifest. And so you can use this for an infinite number of purposes. You can do it for your own healing. You can do it for healing of your loved ones. You can do it for healing of your pets, for healing of the planet. You can do it for creating more positive future timelines. You can do it for anything, okay? Because what's happening is that love frequency, the manifestation of the Christo-Sophia, is the bridge that is allowing all of that to be programmed into the absolute universal source code planetary matrix, your own divine template matrix. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions about that piece? Okay, does everybody understand why it is then that for this next piece of this Galactic New Earth Project, in order to do the work to link up all of the Venus temples, to bring the New Earth light grid online, and to repair and reactivate the 12 strands DNAs, that we're going to be using this quantum quartz crystal technology to facilitate this? Okay, great. I started to see some heads bob. Okay, this is the power of the work that we're doing. And I don't know, Helen, if you want to unmute and speak to the power of what we have already created by installing the rose gold Christo-Sophia light codes at these Venus temples.
Hang on. Okay, here I am. Yeah, I don't know. Every ceremony's just been really powerful. Aren't I a pathetic speaker? So we just sort of bring ourselves there and take ourselves there. And every single time it's been amazing. In New Orleans, I didn't even tell you this, Sophia, but they asked me, please, if I could stay longer.
Wow, that's really incredible.
I said, don't worry, I can come anytime you need me, just call. Because
Right.
needless to say, in case no one knows, New Orleans pretty filthy. Needs a lot of cleaning up. And Sophia didn't tell you guys this, but where most of all these temples are, and I don't know if you all know this, but usually all of these temples, they go back way, way, way back. Don't ask me how many times back, maybe even pre-Diluvian. And then the wonderful church in Rome built stuff on top of all of them, like they have done in lots of places. And Wales is loaded with stuff. Anyway, if anyone has a question, just ask me. I don't know what else to say. So needless to say, in other words, what I'm trying to say is that's what we mean about what we're trying to do, is to get rid of that other energy, to bring the other back to where it was. And by the way, there is a huge pyramid in the Ukraine that's hidden under the earth, and it's made of gold. And the capstone is a green gold, which is something that no one even knows what kind of gold that it is. And I think that'll be unveiled soon. I don't know how to say how soon, but it's there.
Right.
So
right.
that'll be really empowering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because from my perspective and from what I've received from Sophia and from Yeshua, is that understanding as I do, that the unified source field is the Sophia-Christ Consciousness, then whenever spirit meets matter, the Sophia-Christ Consciousness is present, as we see with this simple crystal. And so it really gives a whole new meaning to the scripture, where two or more gather, there I am amongst them. Because when spirit meets matter, the Christo-Sophia, the Sophia-Christ Consciousness is present. And so that's why a lot of these ancient sites are starting to become activated and starting to reveal themselves, because of the fact that, as Yeshua explained to me last year, the second coming of Christ is in fact the emergence of Sophia through each and every one of us. So let me go back to my slides unless there's any other questions. Okay. All right, so those are the 5 steps that we'll be using to be able to do the work that we're going to be doing, and that all of you can do with your own crystals as well, for any sacred work you'd like to do. So this is how this journey is going to work. It's going to start here on October 22nd at that resurrection point, which happens within the underworld, as I explained to you. This resurrection point in the Inanna underworld is the second phase of the Venus synodic cycle. The third phase of the Venus synodic cycle is this ascent journey. The ascent journey that starts here on December 24th at the root chakra activation and goes all the way through July of next year, when we activate the soul star chakra. And at each one of these different activations, each month, we'll be getting together to use our crystals and our quantum crystal technology to repair and reactivate another strand of DNA. And then the fourth and final phase of the Venus synodic cycle is the metamorphic underworld. And in the metamorphic underworld, Venus and the sun come together again to create what's known as the metamorphic seed point. And it's at this metamorphic seed point that we will activate the 12th strand of DNA. So in terms of the Galactic New Earth Project, this is the journey that it's going to be going through August of next year, to bring all of that 12 strands of DNA online. And of course, all of you are invited to join us at any point. You can still go back and on my YouTube channel and watch the ceremonies of the Venus temple activations and even participate through those, because we know that everything is always in the eternal now. Now, what's fascinating is I'm reading this series of books called the Transylvania series that's written by Radu Sinamar. There's 7 books in the series. I'm in the 6th one now, The Forgotten Genesis. And he actually speaks to what Sophia, way back in January, was already telling me about the evolution of humanity and the fact that these planetary and star activations that happen in the sky are assisting us in our own evolution. And what I'm going to be doing, and I invite everybody who's going to participate in this project to do as well, is I'm actually going to go and have some Kirlian photography done prior to that October 22nd date, so that I can see what my auric field looks like prior to beginning the activations of my DNA. And then next August, after we've activated all 12 strands of DNA, I'm going to take a second Kirlian photography so that I can demonstrate to others the difference that has shown up regarding all of the work that we've done. Because we all know that when we work with energies, you know, everybody perceives differently. What's showing up in my reality and validating my work is very different than what any of you are going to experience and have as validation in your own work. But to have something that's objective, like a Kirlian photograph, as opposed to something subjective of, well, I experienced this. And so who can say that you did or you didn't, right? Because again, the lower mind comes in and tries to discount, you know, your truth. I'm inviting everybody that participates in this project with us to do the same, so that we can demonstrate to the world the work that we're doing and the impact of the work that we're doing. Okay, let me go back to my slides. All right, I am going to be having some community collaborators with involved in this stage of the journey. And most of you probably already know Carol Billets. She has been the one collaborator that did participate with us in all of the installation of the light codes at the Venus temples, all 8 of those Venus temples. And I asked her, I said, you know, how are you feeling about your commitment to this project and moving forward with us in this project? And she was absolutely on board. In that conversation, what was interesting, because during all of the temple activations, she had a segment where she would do a channeled message from Yeshua. Yeshua actually spoke to us through her and said that while he and the other teachers and guides will be present with us through this next stage of the journey, that they're going to be stepping back and allowing the divine feminine to step forward to share messages of wisdom with us. And what's interesting, and was a little confusing to Carol at the time, is that Yeshua explained that the descent journey, that Venus descent journey, where we were activating each of the temples, is a divine masculine journey. And the ascent journey, the one that we're going to be going through starting in December, where we're going to be activating each strand of DNA, is a divine feminine journey. Now, this made absolute sense to me, because the message that I received from Yeshua last year was in this very same underworld period between the descent journey and before the ascent journey, where he told me that the new template is this second coming of Christ as the emergence of Sophia through humanity. So that made absolute sense to me when he said that, when he spoke that to us. Now, during that same meeting, we were already able to have various embodiments of the divine feminine step forward through Carol and make these commitments. And so Isis is going to speak to us on this October 22nd event of the resurrection point, when we have this shamanic rebirth ceremony. Mother Magdalene is going to speak to us in December when we have the activation of the gate of manifestation, which is at the root chakra. Mary Magdalene is going to speak to us when we have the January 23rd activation of the gate of creation, which is at the my mind lost the word. What is the word? Let me stop the share. Helen, can you remind me? What is the word of that second chakra? Sacral chakra. Sacral. I mean, it was like right on the tip of my tongue. Sacral chakra. Thank you. And then when we have the solar plexus activation in February, which is the gate of personal power, Lilith is going to speak to us, which I find fascinating, because Lilith as a goddess is a sovereignty goddess. And so to speak to us at this gate of personal power seems to just be a beautiful unfolding of synchronicity and mystical sharing with us at that time. So Carol's going to be a collaborator. We're also going to be having a new collaborator join us. Her name is Carolina Grace, and she has founded the company Heart-Led Humanity. This is the link to her site, and she is going to be speaking to us through each of the sharing circles about how it is that we are experiencing from one month to the next, the activation of this DNA, how that's showing up within us, how it's showing up within our external reality, so that we can really connect with being more heart-led through these additional strands of DNA as we move forward. There is another lady that I'm speaking to in Sweden that I've invited to collaborate with us, and I'm just waiting to hear back from her as to whether or not she'll be joining our collaboration. But whether she does or doesn't, we've got two phenomenal collaborators joining us with this for this next stage of the project. So just to remind you, this next stage of the project is kicking off October 22nd, where we're going to be linking up the Venus temples, bringing that new Earth light grid online, and starting with the third strand of DNA repair and reactivation. So all of this work that we're going to be doing over the next year to August of next year is going to be a part of this igniting the sacred flame of our inner Christo-Sophia, which we know resides right here in our heart temple. All right, to switch gears a little bit, if you will go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter, it is through my newsletter that I send out the Zoom links for each of those activations. We tried doing it publicly, and it was a terrible experience because the dark forces attacked us. And so now we have to share the links for these ceremonies and activations privately. So I don't mind if you share them to your own friends and family that you know that would be interested in this work. Just please do not share the links, the Zoom links, on any kind of, public social media site, online, anywhere. The next thing is I would like to tell you that I have been invited by the Lewis Herms and his group of the Truth Tour to join their Truth Tour 2. I'll be coming down to Tampa to speak on October 14th. Because you're close to the area, if you're interested in showing up for that leg of the Truth Tour, you can get your ticket at this link here. I personally am going to be speaking to Lewis Herms. Let me just stop my share for a second. I'm getting his birth information from him, and I'm going to be doing a spiel on his soul mission and how he's achieving his soul mission, and how putting together this Truth Tour is aligned with his soul mission. Those of you that have had astrology readings from me before will remember that when I spoke to your natal Pluto and your natal North Node, that those are the things that I look at regarding your soul mission and how you're achieving your soul mission during this lifetime. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have the participants, if they'd like to, put their birth information in like a fishbowl, and have Lewis pull one of those out of the fishbowl, where I will provide the same kind of soul mission information to that participant in the audience. So I think that's something a little bit different than what you would probably normally hear from some of their speakers. But I love that he has opened up his speaker platform to those that he perceives to be in the spiritualist community. I know he has a lot of medical people and other people speak as well. So I'll be doing that on October 14th. And if you do show up for this, please come and seek me out to say hello, because I'd love to see you. And then the next thing that they're doing this weekend is a truth-a-thon for this September 11th anniversary weekend. So I was also invited to speak during this Truth-a-thon. They're going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, and they're going to go all the way until probably past midnight on Saturday. So I'm slotted to start speaking at 4 o'clock. And of course, we're each designated 15 to 17 minutes. So it may be a little before 4, a little after 4, depending on how all of the previous speakers do with their time. I hope, because it is free, that you will come out to at least watch what I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to be speaking to the 9/11 event. I'm going to be looking at the natal chart, the chart of the exact time that the first plane hit the first tower. And because it is the anniversary weekend, in astrology, we call that birth date a solar return. I'm going to be looking at the solar return for this anniversary to show to people some divine wisdom around this event and what maybe the divine will for this event was about in terms of evolving humanity's consciousness. So that's what I'll be speaking to. And you can find, connect with them if you go to Rumble, Telegram, or Truth Social and do a search for Screw Big Gov. That's the name of their organization that's sponsoring the Truth Tour and the Truth-a-thon. If you connect with them on Rumble, Telegram, or Truth Social, you'll get the information about when this Truth-a-thon is starting. Here are some people that I know are going to be participating, names unlike mine that you may be more familiar with that are also going to be participating in this Truth Tour. So that's all I have to share with you. I'm going to stop my share here and just allow each of you, if you've got any questions about my work with the Galactic New Earth Project, this next phase of the Galactic New Earth Project, or any questions about the Truth Tour or the Truth-a-thon, I'd be happy to try to answer those for you.
So,
Yes.
what time was the Truth-a-thon? When does it
So-
start? Saturday?
It starts, thank you for asking that, because they're starting in California. So it's 8 a.m. Pacific time. I always forget to put the time zone. Starts at 8 a.m. Pacific, which means it starts here 11 a.m. Eastern.
Okay.
I'm slotted for 4 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, darn. Okay. I have something from 3 to 5.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you know if it'll be recorded?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to register and hope for the best. I mean, we'll see
Okay.
what happens, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
I need to
and
make
if I can record it, I will too, to put it on my YouTube channel.
oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's
if
my
you
first
can.
experience with this organization. I feel flattered that I've been invited to join them. I wasn't sure if my work would really be an appropriate topic for their audience.
Right.
And I was assured that yes, because they do have other speakers from what they're calling the spiritualist community.
Great. Good for you.
If you didn't know, that's how they refer to us.
There you go. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Well, I have one because she's talking about October 10th, 22nd.
Yes.
I listened to several different things. I got, Nancy over here and her stuff and other things that I listened to. Have you heard anything? Because I heard from a different site something about November 11th. That would be 22222. So that's 5 2s. Something about a portal of Shiva.
I have not heard about that. And that's quite interesting because, and I'll tell you why. Some people may not be aware of this, that in the Hindu religion, Shiva and Shakti is the same as Christ and Sophia.
Yes.
Christ tends to be more of a Christian terminology, although we know from a universal perspective, it's not owned by Christianity. But when you start kind of filtering down and you start looking at different religious tenets in the Hindu tenets, Shiva represents Christ. I know a lot of people would recognize that Krishna is represented as an embodiment of Christ, and Shakti is Sophia consciousness. Yeah. So I don't know about that portal, and I appreciate you bringing it into my awareness. And I will see now that it's come into my awareness, that's when things start popping for me. Things will start to show up. So I'll be excited to see what starts to show up to bring me some validation around that. And then I'll speak to that on my blog.
Well, yeah, because, well, on this other site is, I hate to say it's a site because it's not really a site, but it's, you know, Shiva is, of course, we know is the Christ. When you compare the Hindu to the Christianity, to the Eastern to the Western, let me put it that way.
That's a very good way of putting it.
You know, and we know that Shiva in the Hindu, in the Eastern side, on the Eastern theology or whatever you want to call it, is the destroyer of death. Well, so was Christ, the destroyer of death. In the resurrection of the body, which occurred, it is the overcomer of death. So, I mean, because even Christ in all the different Bible, you know, in the Bible, the Western Bible, it's, I go to prepare a place for you when he leaves. And then all this that I do, you can do and more. So we are all stepping into our Christ consciousness.
And listen, Gina, I share that with everybody because yes, the scripture says that Yeshua spoke these words, this that I do, you too will do, and even greater. And how is it possible that he could have been sharing that wisdom if he himself, as an embodiment of Christ, did not know and believe that we are all embodiments of Christ?
Well, we all have source the Abba, because I think I'm trying to think. You have the triune God. So yes, you have they have the Trinity. So you have Abba on the west, and you have Brahm, or the parallels, east and west. You know, Abba, Brahm. Then you have Shiva, Christ, and then you have Vishnu and the Holy Spirit. And Holy Spirit. It's not the Holy Spirit. It is Holy Spirit that existed even before Christ, because it was through Holy Spirit that the Virgin was how we get to the Christ. And the connection of the Sophia and is the feminine side. And so yes, I can see that. But that was something that was up there. And the portal of Shiva, I want to say runs into December, but I don't know how far into December it runs. But from what this organization says, there's going to be a lot of, I'm going to just say it because it's just who I am, Nancy. The shit's going to hit the fan. There's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be leaving, dark as well as light. This is going to be a major exit.
And so astrologically, let me just share with you some validating events that I'm aware of. One, we have the rise of Venus in the evening sky happening in December. And of course, that first portal activation, the root of manifestation, happening in December, actually happening on Christmas Eve day. But we also have, for the United States, the third and final activation of our Pluto return happening. And of course, Pluto is known as the Lord of the underworld, but he's also very much those death and rebirth energies. And so, yes, between now when we descend into the Inanna underworld. And I would venture to say even February, when Pluto makes its first ingress out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, we're going to see a lot of stuff coming up.
It can't
Yeah.
happen soon enough for me.
Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio.
Okay.
Scorpio in its shadow has to do with secrets and deception. And so we're seeing all of that shadow come to the surface. It has to have the light brought to it. It has to be seen so it can be transmuted. So this is what the Pluto through Aquarius journey is going to be about.
And to think I came here from Mars. Because I'm Martian, so, you know, I know that because I had some Akashic record stuff done. But it feels comfortable because I'm also a warring spirit. Thank you so much.
Sure. Before I take any other questions, let me just bring you back to that October 22nd resurrection point. That's happening at 29 degrees of Libra. 29 degrees of any astrological sign is a mastery point. So that already says, whoa, something huge is getting ready to happen on that day. But if you look at the axis, the Libra Aries axis, Libra is ruled by Venus, the sacred feminine. Aries across the sky is ruled by Mars, the sacred masculine. And this axis is the path of conscious equal relationship. So we see that as we do this resurrection point, that the Christ and Sophia in their sacred union are being resurrected together. So this whole journey that a lot of people make about, you know, the restoration of the divine feminine, the reemergence of the divine feminine, the rise of the divine feminine, whatever word you want to say about that, it will be seated at that resurrection point. The divine feminine is risen at that point. Sophia is risen, Christ is risen together, and together in sacred union, they will be moving through that ascent journey. Any other questions? Anita, do you have a question?
I want to make a comment. I think it was fascinating. Thank you so much. And I watched Elena Danan, and I love that you brought that in, and Dan Willis and Dr. Michael Sala. I watched one of the first timeline activations, but I was going to re-watch it, and I would love to go to your website and learn more about what you're doing. I'm fascinated. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy that you're here tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Gordon, did you have a question? Because I saw a look go across your face.
No, I wanted to thank you so much for your presentation. And just as a side note, I enjoyed watching your cats, which are behind you on the post, having a good time as well. So on behalf of everyone here, I just wanted to thank you for all of your information.
Oh, thank you so much, Gordon. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Same here, Sophia. I just want to thank you again. I really always appreciate the work that you're doing and just coming to our group, the New Earth Ascension group, to really bring this forward. And, you know, just thank you. I always learn from your work. And I also want, for those who have not had a soul chart done by Sophia, that's something that I've experienced and I highly recommend as well. Just really was fascinating. Just love the work. And again, just thank you for coming and speaking to us. And so this is recorded. We will get this out to everyone. And also with some links, just a reminder of how everyone could register on your website, right? So that they can get the link to the Zoom recordings for the Zoom links for the activation.
Great, that's great. Thank you. And it's my honor. It's always my honor to be able to share what I'm receiving. So if it resonates with you, it excites me. And if it doesn't, that's okay.
Exactly. Okay, great. Okay,